Hey y'all, I'm Randi White, and this is I'm Running with Randi White. Every week, we're taking a real, raw, and refreshingly honest look at what it's like to run for Congress in Maryland's 1st District. From kitchen tables to campaign trails, I'm bringing you with me every step of the way. This is our campaign. We're bringing empathy back to DC by rebuilding our community in Maryland 1. And to get on board, make sure you follow us at all our socials at randiformd. Remember, that's Randi with an I, and randiformd.com. Let's get into it for this week's episode. Hey, welcome to the last week of July 2025. I'm Randi White, and I'm running to be your congresswoman, right? You're listening to I'm Running with Randi White, and I want to start by thanking everyone. Thank you for tuning in to episode 1, and thank you for showing up, watching all the clips on social media, sharing, and helping to spread the word about our campaign. We're bringing empathy back to DC by rebuilding our community here in Maryland 1, and this past week was a big one, y'all. They let me out of the house. I attended my first campaign meet and greet with the Wicomico County Democratic Central Committee, and it went pretty well. I want to send a shout out to Miss Demetria Leonard because she threw out the invite, and I was really happy to go out to Rain Seafood in Salisbury. It was really great. I really want to thank those who came out. It was so good to talk to the crowd and meet and greet with people one-on-one. I'm very happy that those that were there were able to see the hometown girl secure in who she is as a candidate and the issues on the table, and committing myself to standing up for everyone and not leaving anyone behind. Everybody has a seat at the table as far as I'm concerned, and I'm representing that. Introducing and committing this as our campaign to the people, in front of the people, and letting them know that this campaign is all of us for all of us. We talked about the same things you and I talked about on the podcast last week: healthcare, education, living costs, and immigration. Also at the meet and greet, I had a chance to meet a couple of the folks running in this Democratic primary. And listen, I'll always be respectful of anyone putting themselves out there to serve. This is not easy to do, but I want to be crystal Pepsi clear. Andy Harris is the one with the job that I'm running for. He's the one who's been hurting our communities, so I'm after him. And I'm running to fight for all of us against him. And while others may see us as opponents, I see them as future allies in this movement, because this campaign not really focused on division. It's about building something better, rebuilding our community. And it starts with telling the truth and showing up for the people. Honestly, for me, this event confirmed what I already knew. You are ready for something new and someone real, something honest, something grounded in us. And that's what this campaign is all about. If you're new here, welcome. Today's episode is going to be a lot more information filled than last week. Last week was more of an intro. Today, we will talk about food insecurity in Maryland 1. We'll also tap into immigration, education, and what we're doing this coming week. If you've been with us, thank you. Thanks for rocking. Let's go ahead and get into it. So last week we touched on Medicaid and how access to healthcare is a basic right, not a luxury. We also talked about just because you don't have Medicaid doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you. All of us for all of us, y'all. Now this week we're staying close to home, literally, and talking about something that hits your kitchen table: food. And I want you to hear me clearly when I say this. When the most vulnerable among us go hungry, the pain doesn't stay with just them. It ripples through all of us. So just because you think it doesn't directly affect you right now, stick with me. I'm going to get to that. On July 4th, a bill was signed into law, what Andy Harris and his cronies call the Big Beautiful Bill. I personally call it a big red flag. And trust me, I've dated a bunch of them in the past, so I know a red flag when I see it. Because tucked inside was a massive $186 billion cut to SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, over 10 years. But what does it mean in real life? I'm going to break it down, and yes, it affects you. Just stick with me. If you're an able-bodied adult under 65, even if you're struggling to find full-time work or you're just trying to stay afloat, you now face stricter work requirements, 80 hours per month to keep your SNAP benefits. The states, not the federal government, are now footing more of the bill, and if your state makes paperwork errors, they get financially penalized. And the average family will get about $100 less per month, and that's chopping out probably about a week of food. But let me say this again. Families who are already making it work on a shoestring budget are now expected to survive with less food on the table. Now let's look at our home, Maryland's 1st Congressional District. It stretches across the Eastern Shore, Cecil County, Harford County, and even a sliver of Baltimore County. And the truth is, our district is a tale of two realities. In some counties, like Talbot or Worcester, we see food insecurity numbers hovering around 14 to 15%. Still far too high, but lower than the state average. But let's talk about some other counties, because that's where the crisis is loudest and clearest. In Somerset County, nearly 28% of high school students face food insecurity. In Dorchester, it's over 26%. And my home county, Wicomico, is right behind it at 25.2%. We're talking about 1 in 4 children, our neighbors' kids, our grandkids, our students, struggling to eat every single day. And that's just the kids we know about. Now, here's where it gets even more personal. SNAP cuts don't just affect what's in your fridge. They also put our schools at risk. Many schools qualify for something called the Community Eligibility Provision, or CEP for short. That's what allows schools to offer universal free meals. No question asked, no stigma, no red tape. But here's the catch, y'all. Schools only qualify if a certain percentage of their students are enrolled in SNAP or Medicaid. So when families lose benefits or fall through the cracks, schools lose their eligibility, and suddenly no one gets those meals for free. Imagine being a child who can't focus because they had to skip breakfast. Imagine being a teacher trying to manage a room full of tired, hungry kids. This is real, and it's about to start happening even more than it already is. So I didn't mention your county, so you're in the clear, right? Nah, just because a county looks good on paper doesn't mean people aren't struggling. In places like Cecil, Kent, and Queen Anne's counties, the numbers might be lower for food insecurity, but the access is still hard. We're talking about food deserts where folks live 10, 15, even 20 miles from the nearest full grocery store, where there's no bus line because we don't have public transportation, no car, and no delivery options, where fast food is cheaper and more accessible than fresh produce. So even if you have SNAP benefits, where do you use them? You shouldn't have to travel a half hour to find apples or whole grain bread. Not in 2025. Not anywhere. This is where I come back to what I said at the top, y'all. All of us for all of us. When the poorest children in our community go hungry, it doesn't stop with just them. It affects classroom performance. It leads to long-term health problems. It deepens generational poverty. And this is what we're trying to get rid of because it's a lot of it here in Maryland 1. And yes, it even costs us more in the long run through public health and social services. Hunger isn't just a private pain, it's a public failure, y'all, because when the state has to pay even more, where do you think it comes from? So what do we do? What's the plan with our campaign? Well, we advocate to restore and strengthen SNAP, especially in rural counties and food deserts. We protect universal school meals by ensuring families get the support they need to stay enrolled. We invest in mobile markets, community gardens, local food hubs, and support summer feeding programs like Maryland Sunbucks. And we talk about it loudly, even louder. Okay, you're getting it. We're getting there because silence doesn't feed anyone. The wild thing is, this is something that is preventable. These numbers aren't super new. There has been access and availability from the top, meaning federal funding, but our representative, Andy Harris, doesn't find any of it necessary. We really have to fire this guy. I find it necessary. I find it necessary to make sure we don't have food insecurity in our children. I find it necessary to make sure that there's access and these food deserts are eradicated. I find it necessary. We find it necessary, and I will fight for us. I'll be talking more about solutions, policy fixes, and what we can do together in the next few months, especially as I travel the district on this listening tour. In the meantime, who would I be presenting a problem without a few solutions we can do on our own? Here's your next action steps. Check on your neighbors. It's a pride thing when you're not able to provide food for your kids, even though you're trying and you're working super hard. See if they need some help. If you're capable of helping even more, support your local food banks. Call your elected officials on the local, state, and federal level. Yes, Andy Harris still has the job, so fill that voicemail box up and his email inbox as well. And remember, we all need to eat. We all eat, or none of us do. BT dubs. You know that phrase I keep saying, all of us for all of us? It's not just a tagline. It's a mission. When the most vulnerable among us are hurting, it eventually ripples through our entire community. So we rebuild. We lift, we care. That's how we bring empathy back to DC, by starting with community, rebuilding our community right here in Maryland 1. So another nationwide problem has hit close to home. A beloved pastor, Daniel Fuentes Espinal in Easton, was detained by ICE. If you don't know, he was arrested last Monday as an undocumented immigrant with no criminal record, hold for the message here, sent to Baltimore. And his family was finally alerted that he was on his way to Louisiana without his meds, without anybody knowing what was going on. This is his home, though, and due process hasn't been given to him at all. His absence has rippled through our community, not just because of who he is, but because of what it represents: fear, instability, and injustice. In fact, his family isn't doing interviews anymore due to fear of retaliation. That's wild, right? You ready for a PSA? All of these arrests don't have warrants. And do you know why they don't have warrants? Because judges wouldn't sign off on this nonsense. There's no backing that supports arresting people just because their skin is brown, just because they speak Spanish or Haitian Creole, just because they don't look like you. No judge would sign off on that. And we have police officers just allowing these abductions to take place without asking for a warrant. They're just letting these people walk out that have like these flimsy gaiters on their faces. The official word on the gaiters on their faces, by the way, is that it's to protect their identities. From whom? From what? You're federal agents. You're the big dogs. You don't need to protect your identity. And if you did need to protect your identity, you got it. You're a federal agent. You're a federale. You know what you're doing, right? I've never seen that happen with federal agents. The problem is that they're doing this all illegally. And we're not talking about those who are immigrated into this country. We're talking about these people working under the guise of Andy Harris's daddy, Trump. The justification for not letting anyone go through due process is, well, they don't work. They don't put anything into the economy. But they purposely went into personal tax information from IRS records. They claim undocumented immigrants aren't following the law, but they're catching them in immigration court doing their process of getting their paperwork done. So is it Uchiwali or is it one Mike, Andy Harris? This is something you support because you support your daddy very, very hardcore. Which one is it? Because as I see it, due process was allowed when Tupe Fiasco was accused of sexual assault. Due process has been afforded to him whenever he's been accused of cheating out vendors and hardworking Americans for decades. Due process was given when he was found guilty of 34 felonies in a court of law last year. And now he's in charge of the country. So you mean to tell me someone who is doing everything right isn't allowed to be in their home here in the United States? I would say Andy's daddy shouldn't be allowed in the Oval Office since he's only done it wrong. The fact of the matter is none of this is good. We will work through this though, and we will fight. It is going to be hard, and we have to be very careful. We have to protect our citizens because they've already made it known that they're not going to stop at undocumented immigrants. You understand? We have to protect our citizens and our large Hispanic and Haitian immigrant population, which are part of our community. These folks aren't outsiders, y'all. They're our neighbors. They are building our homes, working in agriculture, serving food, running small businesses, staffing hotels. They are part of the heartbeat of our economy here. They're doing what we're doing, and we need to do it all together. And they live under constant threat. I get that. My pledge to our community that we're rebuilding here in Maryland 1, I will fight to protect our immigrant communities. I will support humane policies that keep families together, protect workers, and make sure that our schools are safe havens for ESL students and newcomers. This isn't about politics, y'all. You see, empathy leads to this little thing that's required throughout our life: humanity. At the meet and greet last week, I was excited to field questions about public education. Not only as the child of an educator and even the stepchild of an educator, I am a product of Wicomico County Public Schools. Yes, shout outs to Charles Shipman Elementary School, North Salisbury Elementary School, especially the magnet program, Wicomico Middle School, and Wicomico High School, also known as Y-High. Y'all did this. This is your fault. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad, and I've seen the underfunded. In Maryland's 1st District, our schools don't just need resources, they need proper representation, and that's why I'm here. While the rest of the state is thriving under Democratic leadership and representation in Congress, our district counties are falling behind. And that's not an accident. That's a result of Andy Harris ignoring us. Lesson time! See, education lesson. Maryland has 8 congressional districts. The state of Maryland ranks very high in education compared to other states in the U.S. until you get to Congressional District 1, specifically the ones on the shore. The reason there's such a discrepancy is because the other 7 members of the Maryland congressional delegation fight hard for federal funding that's available for their districts. What does federal funding provide? I am so glad you asked. If your child is like my children, and you have an IEP, 504 plan supported by Title I, you get money from federal funding. And that's required to even the playing field, to give your child a chance at a proper education without having to pay extra money. Because private schools do not want to have children with any kind of disabilities there. They don't have to. I can remember just a really quick story going into a private school because while my child was autistic and ADHD, he was super duper smart and had an IEP that started here in Wicomico County. And I had a private school tell me, well, we really wouldn't support that. And it was said just like that, in that slow cadence. And listen, I'm not a dummy. I know what that slow cadence meant. That means that you are trying to tell me you don't want that kind there. That woman proceeded to point to my younger child, who is very gifted, high IQ of 140, but we would take him. And you want to know why I fight hard for public schools? Not just because I was a product, but my kids are going to grow up in them. Because I'll be damned if I'm going to put my kids through a place that I have to pay for and you insult them at every turn. Not me. And I don't want anyone else in Maryland 1 to have to go through that. So we need more federal funding in all of our public schools, from rural schools and schools in places with low incomes. They really need to be taken care of, and federal funding are the way to go. It evens the playing field across the states. Federal funding makes sure that everyone has a chance at a well-rounded education. I'm here to fight for Maryland 1's piece of that pie that actually reaches our school systems throughout the district, the rural ones, urban, everywhere. And you know what? That's going to be another fight when I get into office. We have to undo the damage that is currently being done by the likes of Linda McMahon, who couldn't even teach her son Shane to act. But as well as programs like No Child Left Behind. We talked about it last week. The children were left behind. That policy claimed it would raise standards, but instead it punished under-resourced schools and labeled kids as failures when it's the system that failed them. Now, teachers are leaving the profession, but we don't want them to do that. Not because they don't care, but because they're exhausted. They are severely underpaid and severely undersupported. For our campaign, you want to know where we stand? My fight is for higher teacher pay, classroom support, and policies that center students, not test scores. For our campaign, my pledge, even as a child of an educator, is to surround myself with educators from every county before being specific with legislation, not just superintendents. I'm talking the teachers that are actually working at the elementary level, the secondary level, the higher education level. You're doing the hard work, teachers, and I am here to support you and fight for our students at every level. And yeah, I want to help parents be able to have that time with them after school and support reading. Illiteracy is a problem, y'all. We got to get that back up. So we have to take that time, no matter how tired we are, to make sure we are reading to our students, with our students, asking them what they don't understand. We have to work together, all together, to make this right. If we want a future that works, we have to invest in the people teaching our future. You're still sticking with me. I love it. We're a campaign that's not just building a team or a movement. We are rebuilding a community. From the fishers to the farmers, the babies to the elders, we are all connected. When the most vulnerable among us fall, we all feel it. That's the ripple effect. That's the truth. I believe in the big tent of our party. And that means we don't leave anyone behind. Not Black voters, not rural voters, not immigrants, not women, not disabled folks, not LGBTQ plus communities. Doesn't matter your religion. We don't leave anyone behind. And with our campaign, I mean that front and center. This is where you come. This is our campaign. Empathy shouldn't be a buzzword. It should be the backbone of every policy. And when I go to DC to represent us, I'm taking your stories with me, not to speak for you, but to make sure you are heard loud and clear, because real representation starts with listening. All right, this week, coming up in our campaign, we're going to be focused on social. Lots of videos on our socials at randiformd, Randi with an I, FORMD. And on Blue Sky, it's a little different, at randiformd.com. That's the handle there. Also, the website, randiformd.com. On Tuesday, another Meet Randi segment. I think we're going to have a little fun with it to keep it short. And also, there's so much chaotic misery going on that we need to take a moment and breathe and enjoy ourselves. As I told everybody at the meet and greet in Salisbury on Friday, you have to be able to tear yourself away from the news for just a moment. I want you to do it every Sunday, especially, but you cannot just fill yourself with all that misery. It will hurt. Trust me, it will hurt. So we'll have a little fun with Meet Randi on Tuesday. I do have an announcement to make and I haven't made it yet. And I don't know, I think I'm going to make it next week. Yeah, it feels better then. Also on Wednesday, What's Going On Wednesday, where we take a current news item and try to sift through misinformation in 2.5 minutes or less. We talk about our community spotlight on Thursday and Friday. We'll see where it takes us. If you have any questions that you want to send, questions about knowing me personally, questions about our campaign, we do have a text line. You can always text me, 410-410-2619. I get all those texts sent to me personally in my phone, and you can text me any time of the day. If you have concerns, if you want me to come out to your event, text me there. Sorry, I went a little Miss Cleo. I don't know why I did that. Text me now. I don't know why I do that. I'm so sorry. Also, you can email randiformd@gmail.com. Go through the details there. If you are part of the press, you're welcome to hit me up at those places only. Hey, week 2, episode 2 is in the books. A lot more information today. I'm ready. We got more to come over the next few months. This is going to be amazing, and more of your input is going to be needed and going to be welcome, and so many surprises, I promise you. If you believe that this message, we talked today a lot about all of us for all of us. If you believe in that, it speaks to you, it has spoken to you, help me carry that message forward. Invite me to your events, not just the parties, but the meetings, the forums, the community gatherings. I want to hear from you. You don't have to ask me to come speak. I want to hear from every person in Maryland 1, all 11 counties, all 131 cities and in towns. This is about you. This is your campaign. This is our campaign. This is the true grassroots campaign. I don't come from money. I don't have money. This campaign is fully funded by support from people like you. Wow, I do feel like the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which, by the way, we have to save. PBS is necessary and hasn't done anything to anybody except bring forth great educational programs for children and adults alike. And we have to support PBS moving forward. What a PSA that was. Whew, I meant that from my heart, y'all. And if you're able, make a donation to help us get this message in front of every voter in Maryland 1. We are grassroots. We are people powered. In order to get to all the people, I would love your contribution. $26 to make change in 26. That's what we're asking. We've got a $5,000 goal to hit in the middle of August, and I know we can do that. So if you want to give $26, $76, $106, $260, $2,600, do it at randiformd.com. That's Randi with an I, FORMD.com, because this is our moment to flip the script. And I'll leave you with this, as I told you I would. Be and stay true to yourself and be the change this world needs. And remember, all of us for all of us.